Much better.
Great. So there will be two parts to this talk. First part I will deliver, and then Manuel will do the actual deep dive. He's like a surgeon at Altoros. He always likes to poke things, poke holes, and so and I will then help him out if I have any comments and make sure that we addressed all three items that we had from the audience requested specific areas to be covered. So first of all, why we're involved in this is because we believe, just as Dave said, that Cloud Foundry has a potential to become the Windows of the cloud. We believe that describing it in a different words, we think that Cloud Foundry could make the same impact that conveyor belt made to the automobile manufacturing, which before the Ford got started already had the conveyor, but it was not a moving one. It was not a belt. So we think that Cloud Foundry can really be that one, and ultimately deliver the cost savings and make the high-end software factories available to rich and poor everybody. So at Altoros, we're services company, 100% professional services revenue. We're not selling a product. We're not reselling a product to anyone, so we don't have much of a conflicts of interest with like specific vendors. Yeah, we might be a partner of a few vendors here and there, but literally we don't receive any kickbacks. So we just got too late into this business to have those kickbacks, so we don't have the dependency on those, and therefore we really don't care what kind of product someone wants to push. We always were paid by the customer, and if it's not right for the customer, we'll not do anything to get a certain vendor in out. So we do Cloud Foundry training, deployment, and integration. So if you are a vendor, we might be helpful to you that whatever strategy you have with Cloud Foundry, we can help expand the footprint of your technology within a customer if it really delivers value. If you are an end customer, we can help you as a champion of this new technology to explain and sell the idea why this is cool, why they should change to the rest of your team members, the rest of your organization. We do know that many of our customers, especially when we come in and we have a champion within an organization who is passionate about Cloud Foundry, who attended some of the meetups, just like you guys. You come out of curiosity, right? What kind of opportunity it creates, right? This is a big driver. Not everybody is like you, and majority of the people are really the followers. They follow you in their organization. Not necessarily you are the folks who might be the big bosses telling what to do, but I do know that many of you are being asked by your colleagues, what's going on in the world? What are the trends, right? And your opinions really matter. So we help those champions within organizations get and move ahead with taking the message and making this change happen. So for overall, before we get into the details, the change of going from left to right is affecting a lot of different companies, vendors, IT organizations, individual developers. Like everybody is going to be different. Is going to do a different work, all because of the shift happens, right? And this shift may look like just different colors, but in reality, the key thing is that some of the people will lose jobs because they don't want to change. Some of the people feel threatened because they say, what do you mean? What do you mean it does high availability? Like, what do I design? You say I don't need to design the architecture anymore for every app? What do I do, right? You say that I don't have to create VMs, and you are not talking to me, you're not submitting a ticket to get an infrastructure, what's my role then, right? I'm creating infrastructure for you. So this is just one example of the folks that have that mentality, and some of the like far right examples of older organizations that really didn't have the opportunity to get up to speed what's going on. Go ahead.
You have solutions for these people, or are they just fucked?
Most of them are.
Oh. Oh.
We cannot fix the people that really don't want to be fixed.
Change or die.
Exactly, and I will be writing a blog post on the subject that is a little bit similar, but of a much greater kind of picture. Like I was reading a book the other day about the possible options that the humanity, that civilization we have, that we as a civilization have when it comes to sustaining the impact of robots of all kinds coming and want to take our jobs, right? And I think that those folks who don't want to change at all, that only believe that, oh, I get a degree at college, or I go to this professional education once, and then I become a system administrator, and that's what I'm gonna do my whole life, without learning anything new and changing the way I do my job or changing the role I play in the organization. If they're not gonna change to learn something new, I think they can survive in some companies, but in most companies they certainly don't have the chance of survival. The chance is very low.
Okay, but just to be clear, your company is not going to kill us with robots.
No.
Okay, thank you.
We
Laser
ourselves
tag.
trying to figure out how do we change to make relevant and to live with robots and be smarter than them, which is very hard.
We're working with some customers that do some kind of those things, but not killing yet.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Yeah, there's so many examples throughout history of where we've seen this, and a simple example is like an elevator man.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Well, no, like there used to be a person who
the
actually
title, okay.
stood in the elevator and helped you get to your floor, and then that got automated, right? So what does that person do, right? There's tons.
The cloud.
There's tons of these examples, and so you have to. Sometimes your job just goes away, and you need to find another job. Other times, you just have to go higher up the stack to remain valuable.
Or lower.
Yeah.
And and so that's I think what most of us need to do is go up the stack a bit.
Yeah.
Thank
And that's a topic for a whole another book.
Yeah.
So most of you know a little bit what Foundry is, but go ahead.
I had a question about the previous slide.
Yep.
So in the Foundry platform as a service, so as a user, do I get to choose any of the lower, like runtime I can understand, but which OS or virtualization, like do I have any choice in that, or?
Yeah, sometimes you do, but in many cases you don't. As an operator, if you design it for your own organization, let's say if it's a private platform as a service, you have complete control what you choose, what you put inside, because you're building that service for your organization. So you're the AWS for them, right? Or whatever, or Heroku.
Compatibility issues, because not all the components and all the possible virtualization engines are compatible with the stack.
Yeah, for example, right now in the world of Foundry, which sits on the opposite side of the open source pond from Red Hat. Red Hat is not supported by the community, influenced by Pivotal and VMware, right? It's not the option that is like supported, and if you want to make it work, sure, go ahead, submit. It's an open source, right? But by default, it's Ubuntu, it's CentOS, right? So if you want to choose, if you want to have that specific portion, that's cool. Go ahead, make it work. Go through the struggle. But most people don't really do it. And here's the magic happens. It doesn't matter what's underneath, to the point where it doesn't matter what kind of storage. It further abstracts what we see with OpenStack. It just amplifies, just as Dave said. if it's DOS, then this is Windows. It makes it so irrelevant. What's there? Because for me, if I push an app or if I'm an operator, I don't care. It works. It just works, right? And that's what makes a lot of people move and start to figure out, well, how do we become relevant in this new world? And a lot of different companies have to reinvent themselves, which is a good thing for everybody, because everybody is in a difficult spot. Only a few companies enjoy like total market domination leadership, like AWS, but the rest of the people who weren't that smart, who weren't betting $1 billion, where everyone thought, oh, who cares about these developers, right? Now we have to catch up and change, right?
Anyway, I will talk about later
Yeah.
those 3 layers: runtime, middleware, and OS, where you can choose between some flavors.
Yeah, tries to.
Okay. Guys, I need to.
So, okay.
I need to reopen it. Okay. I'm good. So now guys, I will go very fast through my slides. Manuel has a deep dive, in fact. So as a developer, I just care about the code that it runs, that it has the continuous development, integration, and what kind of operating system in there, what's underneath. It's not one of these items, right? Wow. And for as an IT manager, I care about other things, as making it available as a service, and all of this stuff that we were promised by the cloud is actually becomes a reality, including the hybrid cloud, which is very hard to achieve without the PaaS, but becomes a affordable fate for the PaaS-based business. And as a business owner, I have like things that seemingly don't have anything to do with PaaS, but when we look at closer at them, it makes it a really enabler of many of these items. In some cases, it's just exactly what that business need is. The PaaS is the feature. One of the features of PaaS is exactly that, like scaling my infrastructure with the demand without having a lot of overhead associated with setting up the scale and managing the scale and things like that. So if we compare the platform as a service versus infrastructure as a service, when it takes hours and days to set up a complex app, real production, high available, like latest and greatest best practices, with platform as a service, it's very easy because it's just an API call away. And the best thing of all is so developer friendly that you literally have an API to talk to your app. And in a world that is increasingly ran by developers, influenced by developers, if you would give a choice, developers would live in a world where they can order beer through an API call. They would do everything through an API, right? So this just makes it a little bit closer.
Yes, not only that, developers nowadays, they are not just developing one thing as a request for a document, and that's it. And I don't care about the architecture, how that their application performs, and what is around their application. Nowadays, it's really agile and really powered development teams. They know what a load balancer is. They know which kind of database and why they are using it. Otherwise, they are not agile, they are stuck, and also they will provide bad solutions. So with that in mind, they can actually, under a controlled environment, like you want to do this and that mistakes, feel free to do all of this stuff.
Right, and you get it very fast. So there is no overhead associated with addressing the needs of the developers. So it's like a dispensary, like an app store for developers. You want an app, you get it. And what kind of changes that are business-wise that the companies can achieve? Like at Intel, this is from a 2000 and I think 12 or 13, their assessment of their internal process. What does it take to build an app in Intel? So let's see, if you're a developer in Intel, you build an app, and then before it goes live, it goes through all of these steps. It takes 130 days at max, typically about 1 month. But they ask, like, can we really do it like in 1 day? Someone told us we thought that he's crazy, but then other people say that yeah, he might predict the future. So how can we do it in just 1 day? And can we make it happen? And in fact, well, they're not there yet, but they're getting there. So Intel is one of the companies adopting Cloud Foundry for their internal use to accelerate the way they build apps and kind of bringing that conveyor belt into their organization. They're not done yet, and I'm not sure if they will ever be done, but they ultimately can make it happen and make it closer to 1 day. At least 80% reduction at 20% of effort is something that we all think is doable, right? So what does it take to deliver in 1 day? Essentially, takes to have an API for developers and let them do all the stuff they want to do in an automated way, in a documented way. It makes it the DevOps or IT system administrators becoming DevOps and building the processes and building the templates and repeatability into what they do, not just one-off, but something that developers can use continuously. And then the gaps in the IT manager's work when they want to deliver the services, defining what the services are, which services will get the most will get the most impact to the organization. Cloud Foundry becomes that's kind of a delivery mechanism for them to push those services into production and make it available to various people. Well, first of all, developers. These are some of the photos from the last Platform CF conference in September. If you're interested in Cloud Foundry, I encourage you to attend the Cloud Foundry Summit, which will be on June 9th through June 11th in San Francisco this year. cfsummit.com or cloudfoundrysummit.com. Visit this website, register. I think it's like $200 or something, very inexpensive for a 2-day high-end conference. So it's very end user friendly. Alturas will be sponsoring this summit. We will have a few tickets. I'm not sure if we will have available for the community to give away, but if you really want to get to that and want to learn about what will be happening around the conference, we're going to be preparing the training and the workshops, probably meet up with Dave as well around this conference. So watch for these dates in the end of the first week of June. Events will start happening. There will be approximately from June 5th through June 15th. There will be some stuff going on in the Bay Area. And as far as the business, to finalize my business part, there are 5 business cases, the main cases which drive the adoption. In many cases, it has to be approved by managers. It has to be business justified, right? And these are the 5 that I counted that really either make money or save money to an organization. And I can go into detail. I have one of these use cases, like improved infrastructuralization, an example of a company that goes into. Would you like to see that? Yeah. All right, cool. Let me go quickly around that. So, infrastructure utilization. A lot of big companies, including VMware, were built around, all right, let's increase utilization, here's the solution, virtualization, let's make it happen. And in reality, it's very hard problem to solve, and even VMware didn't solve that. you would think that they're very successful because they solved it. They solved it just a little bit. And in fact, Platform as a Service can do 5 times more impact on utilization than that VMware did. Maybe 20 times more impact. If we look at the scale at which the workloads are growing and the size of data that we have in this world, it might be easily 10, 20 times more impact compared to what we have today. If you're an AWS user, you'll most likely have a bunch of small, medium-sized instances. We're AWS user, we have those. And believe it or not, that if you take, so there is a little fine print over there, but it's on SlideShare. A small company, consulting company, did a survey of AWS users, asked 450 companies who agreed to give them access to all of the metadata about the instances. And when they measured, they looked at most, 88% of these, all of these instances were small, medium, and large. And interestingly enough, they only have 9% average utilization. So what does it mean? It means that great chance that you're leaving money on the table. And if you are a manager of IT in a medium-sized organization and you have 2,000 instances, it means that Amazon is eating like $130,000 a month. And 90% chance that your boss one day will tell you that, hey, my consultant or my son or whomever told me that we are losing like a lot of money and about $1 million a year. You're making less than that, so and you caused that loss. So I think you have to find it. And if you don't find it, we will do something about it. So you will be fired. There is a risk that if you really reject, and this is an example how if you reject this change, this is one of the situations you may end up at. If I would be a system administrator, I would certainly think about that. If I would have 2,000 instances under management. So if we care about having $1 million, this is a 3-step possible solution. It may not work for everyone. It's not really a perfect option. It's only some cases can work, but it's to demonstrate how powerful it is. And it's a real world scenario because if most of your 2,000 instances are utilized on various apps, let's say an interactive agency, easily, a large company like those that starts with like WW something, those large interactive agencies in New York City, they easily can have 2,000 instances on Amazon, right? They have a bunch of customers, real case. And most of their apps are campaigns of all sorts, right? They're running campaigns for people. So step 1 is to check if Cloud Foundry is right. If it's right, then deploy Cloud Foundry on EC2, on these are the CXLs, the large instances that have 256 gig of RAM, and just make the utilization 80%. And because Cloud Foundry, you can take your app and increase the amount of RAM it's using by like increments of 128 megabytes or whatever. You can make your 1 megabyte increment if you want to, but you can really so fine-grain the way that applications scale within an instance. If you need another, then you get another instance. It's really becomes this problem is solved by a feature of Cloud Foundry, really. That's utilization. With API, you can do everything you want, right? If you have an API, you can spawn new instance. You can remove an instance. You can have 20. You can have 21, 19. You can do everything you want. It's just an API call away. If you plug in your custom monitoring and create a rule, if I'm running out of CPU, create instance number 22 with the size of 128 megabyte of RAM. All right, and then in the future there will be multi-cloud Cloud Foundry deployments where you can say, hey, I am having a traffic spike in Japan, so create 2 more instances in Japan, and it will be just an instance as well. So if we look at what kind of impact it is, instead of 2,000 small, medium, large, we have 22 extra large, like big instances, and we are only paying $55,000 a month. Essentially, we earn not exactly a million, but 0.9, almost $1 million a year. Just by taking the utilization from 9%, which is an average, to 80%. So that's all about my part, and Manuel will get into the
When I prepare my computer, you can
yeah.
continue.
And what I can comment is the items that you have requested. Before we started, the first item was auto scaling of apps. We a little bit addressed that.
I will go into more details.
Yeah, Cloud Foundry does not have a pre-built feature for auto scaling, but because you can spawn off instances of the applications, on and off, add more, remove them, change their size. It's just a matter of like very easy line of code that monitors something and acts on it, right? Because it's not a part of the Cloud Foundry core to do the orchestration of the apps. There are a bunch of other things that are much more critical for Cloud Foundry. So that's an opportunity for app developers, for orchestration vendors to add capabilities that would allow orchestrating the apps at the app level. And this is one big area for in Cloud Foundry that's wide open. Go ahead.
Yeah, for Cloud Foundry, the commercial version, does it has that capability?
Commercial version of Cloud Foundry?
Yeah.
Pivotal CF?
Capability for
Or auto scale?
No.
auto scaling at the application level?
Mm-hmm.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Now the thing is that is kind of a dangerous area, really, because if I auto scale your application, probably I will be charging you more money, or you will be charged more money for the infrastructure that you use. So I am scaling your application because probably you have a bad query, it's taking longer,
Yeah.
and I just in case put more load and the query are going to be slower and slower. So that is kind of tricky, and yet I think that they don't want to get into that issue yet, but you have a plugger.
Yeah.
You can plug in your intelligence there for auto scaling.
Yes.
We have done that, and I think that I have some videos somewhere.
Yeah, 6 months ago or like 8 months ago, back in October, we have delivered a demo of auto scaling of an application on top of Cloud Foundry deployed on AWS, where we loaded the app with traffic, and then we demonstrated. All right, so we had a rule: everything beyond 70% CPU utilization,
Yeah.
you have to create another instance.
So
And then we watched, like we started the traffic generator, then we watched CPU 25, 45, 75, 95, 99, and then instance 2 starting, and you see that load got to 25% across 2 instances, it now can sustain it. So these demos, Manuel literally built this demo in one day for a crowd of people.
yeah, that is not a typical feature to implement.
Exactly.
So yeah, you give a very good reason why.
Yeah,
why
well,
it's not for
So
one.
the
you
answer
may-
is
yeah.
the feature is there if we call an API ability to add or remove instances through API. This is the essence of what enables that feature. How you implement it, that's your version. You can create an app for that, or you can monitor it through New Relic, whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's it. You can also probably want to, New Relic has an API. You can read that API. Okay, you will have a lag. On the real time also, you will have a lag. But you can probably design a logic based on that lag and do what would be the best in that situation. And that is the auto scaling up and down.
All right, Manu, go ahead.
Okay, Renat went through all this stuff. This is the last part that he left, where we only manage the application layer. We empower the user, want to give them as many, so they don't have to worry about anything else that just develop and provide and deliver applications. So everything from apps below goes to the PaaS. And you have questions about operating system, middleware, runtime, data, some services. Yes,
Everything below goes to the
PaaS.
bus, BUS?
Pass,
Pass.
it's part of the
Pass.
pass.
Sorry,
Now,
thank you.
Service.
One of the questions
Yes,
I,
you,
one of the
excuse
que-
my English, guys.
one of the questions I have about that is that it doesn't all have to go into the pass. In other words, your code sits on a runtime. So the runtime, to me, is the most important part that has to go in the pass. And then the runtime sits on a bunch of stuff, and that would be taken care of by the pass. But let's say you're running Cloud Foundry on top of infrastructure as a service like Amazon or OpenStack, then the storage could be handled by an object store that's not the pass. It could be part of the infrastructure as a service or whatever.
Yes, it is.
It could be whatever, right?
It is
So
S3, Swiss.
a Swift.
Swift.
Step.
Yes, it is also the data and the services. They are
Yeah.
not part of the past. They
Well-
are software that.
Well, my point is that it depends on what you want to call it, because one model is that infrastructure as a service apps and platform as a service apps all use like a completely different layer of services. And so that the PaaS app actually operates by itself, just running the runtime, and all of those services are independent.
Yeah.
So the database and the object storage and the message queue, and you can call it part of the PaaS, but they're not really run by the PaaS. They are independent third-party services.
But they're managed by the PaaS.
No,
They are
no.
managed by the
They-
PaaS. In
They
these
do
cases.
not have to be managed by the PaaS, is my point.
They don't have to, but it is great that they can.
No, I disagree here. They're not. It depends. Managing the operation part of it, PaaS has nothing to do with operating the object storage.
Right.
So they're not operated by a PaaS. They're consumed by a PaaS. PaaS is just a customer.
That's right.
Right,
And that's,
yeah,
and,
yeah.
and
So
that's
there
the
is a
PaaS
good point.
application is the customer. The PaaS actually has nothing to do with those.
Well,
They
PaaS
could-
can be a customer of object storage. When Cloud Controller, you ask the question like where the Cloud Foundry uses the object storage and what are the options. So
Right.
there is one component in Cloud Foundry called Cloud Controller.
Yeah, 2 slides away.
All right.
Yeah, my simple point is that like I'm trying to reconcile all of this, and no matter what happens, if you're in a public cloud, there is an endless tail of third-party cloud services out there,
Yeah.
and there you could categorize them and say the PayPal API will never be part of your PaaS, right?
No.
Right?
It could be. It could
Right?
be a part of your services catalog, which is
Right.
for PaaS developers.
So there could be a third-party services part of the tail.
Yeah.
There could be the short tail might be services provided by your PaaS, like storage or message queue or database. And then there also might be this middle tier that are services inside of your company, but are not part of your PaaS.
Are we getting hung up on PaaS though? Because for me, that different components provided as services, right? As
Well,
platform services.
The reason why I think it matters is because you've got to decide if you're going to run this yourself,
Sure.
you've got to decide what's inside of Cloud Foundry and what's not.
Sure.
They are called.
No inside Cloud Foundry, right?
Well,
If you
some of
use-
them are.
Some of the services are
Yeah, some of
inside.
them, if it is provided by Cloud Foundry, then it is on. Like some third party like PayPal, if you need to call PayPal API, you can use Foundry, the service broker, to say, okay, now PayPal's API
That's
is
it.
there. I make it available for the application inside, running, hosted inside Foundry to
Right,
use it.
right. And
That's
the,
it.
and the way that I like to, I see, I've been drawing a lot of diagrams lately,
Yeah.
and so and trying to actually get real about this. And you're absolutely right, because if you look at the actual call, that you're going to write code that's going to run on the runtime. And your code, when it goes to call a service, if it's calling a service that's inside the pass, it may not leave your application, or it may not leave the physical server, right? It may just run in memory, okay? If it's calling a service outside of the pass, but still inside of your network, it's going outside of that physical server and even outside of that virtual network to another service inside of your intranet.
Yeah, maybe.
And then eventually, if you're calling PayPal, now you're going outside of the physical server, outside of your virtual network, and outside of the intranet to a public cloud. So
Right.
these are all very important
Let me
distinctions.
give a suggestion. Maybe hold on to it and let the presentation done. Once you get a big picture, it will be a better foundation to do this.
You don't know me very well.
He doesn't like
Johanny challenged him.
That's why we
Suggestion for
I'll
change.
make up.
On the previous slide,
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
He has no
Neil, on the
sleeping
right side,
dogs in his
Yeah.
house.
salad managed by you operator is better to say managed by operator, and whoever that operator is, it doesn't matter.
And by the way, I mean, cloud computing is just freaking complicated. So, like, there's no perfect way of
Yeah,
explaining
go ahead.
this.
Let's go to the next one.
Okay, here this scenario where you need the applications to be delivered in one day, and you say, okay, I have the application. I show you the application, and it's really nice. But, okay, deploy. Well, I have to follow the process where I have to file the ticket, and the ticket has to be approved to the manager, go to the IT guy, create the server, 30 days. So, well, you are kind of in a tough situation. Then they say, okay, let's do it ourselves. What do we need? We need this, that, and that. And the guy is not there, as always happens. Always someone takes the responsibility of specific things. And you need, okay, let's call the expert on this matter, and they say, okay, let's go, call for help. Please help us. And of course, they're not there either. And well, let's play with Amazon. We're talking about a development team with some knowledge. The guy who had more knowledge left. But okay, we have an infrastructure as a service. Let's deploy our application there. We can do it now. And you have that. So you're kind of lost as a developer. Really, you don't know where even to start taking a look at that.
I will start with DC2, I know that.
Yeah. So when you are running a pass, you don't have to care about another thing, multiple environments. When you develop in your computer, probably you go to staging, and it is working, and then production clash. It breaks, and what happened? With a pass, you can do the same thing with the very same environment. The only thing that will change, of course, probably can be the size of each environment. So it will be the very same way of interacting. You will just pull your application through development, testing, staging, production, and then release again and again and again. We talk about this, we talk about this, and we already talk about this. And the other thing that Renat says is that with Cloud Foundry, you don't need to be logged in only one infrastructure. What it is not middleware Because it's not that I give you some specific software already there and you get into there and you just configure some variables, some resources sites and some, I don't know, message queues. No, it's not, that is not the way. You don't deal with the middleware. It's not an application hosting either, because you have plenty of services and plenty of things that helps your application and make them bigger, smaller, and you don't have to care about those things.
So I really don't touch middleware inside? I mean,
Depends on what you mean by middleware, but
You,
probably not.
okay.
what do you mean by middleware?
Okay, so for me, Hue or publish and subscribe would be big. I'm a cloud idiot, but what I know is Q and publish and subscribe. Okay, so I just was a little shocked.
I will go into that direction
Yeah, thank
really
you.
soon. There is a thing called build packs for that. I will
Okay.
write there. So it is not an orchestration deployment tool. This already this talk about this. He stole my slides. Where is he now? Good thing is that I am not paid by the time. This is really important. Not every single application will go happily from the way that you are doing it to the past. In the past, you don't have, for example, local systems. You don't have consistency there. They're all ephemeral. So you cannot trust. The only file system that you have is the one that is inside your little application VM, let's say, right now. So there are some services coming that will provide file system as a service. But in the meantime, you can use some NoSQL databases to store files, to store videos. That is very important. The other thing is, there is no sessions, there are no information stored in HTTP sessions. That part is stateless. Otherwise, you don't have load balancing that easily and scalability. And if you start storing things in a session to make it consistent, it will take a lot of amount of resources and complexities.
Okay.
So best practices for application development on this scale is do not store anything. Just use whatever you gave to the browser or the user, and take that and the application when it receives it and say, okay, now I will realize who this guy is, and do the stuff. There are port limitation, only 2 ports right now. And what about the runtimes and the frameworks that you say, okay, do I have Tomcat, PHP, Ruby, Node? Well, there you go with the build packs.
So, go back just for a second. One more.
Yeah.
Okay, so like it's literally HTTP and HTTPS. There's nothing else supported at this point, like I don't know, SMTP or something like that.
It just gotta be restful.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. So it's all API stuff. And then, all right, cool.
Okay, the runtimes. They are based on one thing that Heroku did really well, which are the build packs. The build packs are pieces of software that you install in the past to support several types of applications. The past will have a list of build packs, and when you put your application, we'll go through those build packs and say, hey, PHP build pack, will you take care of this application? And, okay, this is no, this is not an application, a PHP application. Next one, Java. Okay, looks for this. No, it's not. Ruby. Ah, a gem file. Yes, it's a Ruby application. I take care of this. What do I need? Okay, I will need to install Ruby bundle, get that file and download all the dependencies, the gem files, and so on and so forth. And that is taken care for the build packs. And there are a lot of build packs, and there are official build packs supported by Pivotal. I think there is Java, Node, JS, and Ruby, and I don't know if some more. But there are PHP as well from the contribution from the open source community. And you can specify, if you want one in particular, you can specify when you are deploying your application, you say deploy parameter build pack and the URL of a GitHub repository. It will download it and start doing all the stuff. And then is where you install the middleware, for example, the Rails server or the Tomcat server, the runtime as well. Well, this is a funny part. For deploying an application, you just go into the application directory and CF push. CF is the command line interface for the REST API that Cloud Foundry has for the developer. For Java developers, also Spring Tool Suite. I think there's the Eclipse version of Spring. They also have plugins where they can interact more user-friendly. But well, I am a terminal developer, so I do it this way. So as I told you, just do this, and Cloud Foundry will ask you some questions, or you can specify a specific runtime plus framework. And for scaling the application, the very same thing, and you will be asked for some questions. Here are some components. This is the component that talks to developers. And developers interact through the CLI, which is either a terminal or a plugin from IDE. That is where the REST API for managing your whole application and a lot of stuff is running there. So you are pushing an application. You are in your directory, so you say CF push, and you will push metadata of that application along with the package of all the files or whatever it is needed to upload. For example, a WAR file, or for example, Ruby, which is interpreted the whole stuff, goes to the cloud controller. Cloud controller has to have a state of every single application that is running. It is stored in a database. Say, okay, this application is running for that user, that developer, that belongs to this organization, and is working on the development environment. So store that and store the package in a blob store. And then say, okay, guys who run the applications and that stage the applications, I have an application here that I have to stage. And there are several virtual machines which are components with logic from Cloud Foundry that will take that request with the information. We say, okay, I will go and grab the package. I will create a virtual machine inside a virtual machine. So it will be a container, a Linux container in this case. Right now they are using a container technology that is called Warden. There are some thoughts of change it to Docker, but right now it is Warden, that is C groups and some quotas and isolations. So they create a container. That container, given the build pack, start installing everything there, what it is needed, and what it is when it is done, go back to the blob stuff. And the cloud controller can say, okay, somebody that can run this application. Right now, it sends to 2 guys, so because when you push the application, let's suppose that the developer say I need 2 instances. And there you go. You have 2 virtual machines running 2 applications. And here is where the utilization things come into place. You can have as many applications running in one virtual machine as the sum of all the requested resources can handle that application, that virtual machine, sorry. So there's a guy who's called the DEA, Droplet Execution Agent, that communicates to the cloud controller. I empty. I have this amount of memory, this amount of disk, and also I host this operating system. Right now there are Ubuntu, CentOS, and there are some folks working on Windows as well. So the cloud controller say, okay, take this application and run it. Given that for high availability reasons, makes much more sense to have the same application running in 2 virtual machines, even if you have space enough in the first virtual machine. If it goes down, it's more expensive to reproduce and get back to the initial state. And now it comes the time for the router. This is a specific piece of Cloud Foundry router written in Go language, which has a dynamic routing table. Why dynamic? Because every single time you deploy an application, you ask for a name, a domain name for that application, which doesn't exist. It will be a subdomain of your organization's name. So if I have manuelcloud.com and I push the application demo, it would be demo.manuel.cloud.com, and that doesn't exist. So when these applications are deployed, these guys start saying, okay, register this root. I have this application, which is this domain name, which is in this IP and in this port. The port is created randomly at a station time. So you don't know it yet. What it is known as is that the router accepts connection in 2 ports. And that's it. But it has to know where exactly it needs to go. So that is where the routing happens. And also for high availability, it requires a heartbeat. If you don't send me, stop sending me, you here, this and here, you don't send me your heartbeat that I'm listening this route, goes down. That route goes down and it will start forwarding just for this only one. Until this application is resurrected and some other process is happening there. Any question on that? Yeah.
Yeah, has anyone experienced problems where it was just the application was bogged down? I mean, so I guess it's the executor that actually sends that heartbeat out, but I mean, have people starved the resources which prevented the executor from sending that out? Does that make any sense? Like, do you ever have problems when the app goes down and people are like, well, it was making progress? No? Okay, fair enough.
No, yes. What you mean is that all the things, the little pieces work, but the application is not working.
Or it's working, it's just so slow that it's hitting the timeouts. It's bogged down.
Okay, but that is an application issue. It's not this issue. This route is available.
Okay.
Right.
Yep, okay, thank you.
So this, so Cloud Foundry should be viewed as an application, right? Which you deploy your application with, right? So it could also sit on the bare metal if I wanted to, or it could run in a VM. Is that correct?
That is correct. Right now, it is especially deployed on. I think that I have the slide.
Right, but for now, you don't have access to the bare metal because you're using AWS or
You don't have
or
access.
Rackspace. So you have to deploy it in a VM.
That's right.
Okay. So if
But
you had
Right
if you
now,
had-
I am describing this from the point of user of the developer.
Okay.
So the developer just know that he or she has an API, and that's it.
So
And through
okay, so
that
let me
API,
ask
I
you-
deploy, I delete.
Let me ask the developer question then. On the
Mhm.
heartbeat, is it the application called Cloud Foundry that is answering the heartbeat, or do I have to put something in my application
No,
to
no.
answer the heartbeat?
Your application is completely unaware of that. Is this container here that holds your application that has to say, I'm alive. If it crashes, it has nothing, probably has to do with your application and probably it doesn't. But it is the responsibility of Cloud Foundry to do that. It's the internal way on routing and high availability.
So sorry, what did you call the person doing the answering?
The container.
The container.
The container.
So the container looks in the process table and says, it's not running, and it says no, right? Is that the way that works, or?
No, the
Heartbeat mechanism.
let me remember
It
this.
is this droplet execution engine that runs containers, and there is also a health manager that monitors that the containers are alive. And once your application container goes down, a health manager notifies the system that this container went down and we need to deploy it. And also
Yes.
there are, you may implement algorithms of high availability when you will have various instances of the same application running on different servers or in different availability zones, if you will. In that case, when you have this high availability setup, one container goes down, the application will still running. But the responsibility of health manager will be to make container backup again. Does that address your question?
Sort of.
So yeah, let me try to address it a little bit. So
I forgot one thing. I forgot one component. That when this is created, the application listens in a specific port, which is dynamically generated. And there is a component that also ping to that port to get a response. So if the application is stale, it will consider to be destroyed.
that is
Like, this has to be removed.
So you're saying there's an HTTP pinger
Yeah,
pinging
yeah.
the front end of the service.
Yeah,
But
but
there's nothing in the OS that's really sort of checking all the system services that
No,
you
no,
might
no.
be using or something. It's
no,
very
it's just
simple
from
HTTP
from
pinger.
outside.
Okay.
And your application has
no, on each
nothing
of
to
the
do.
virtual machine
Yeah.
that run in Cloud Foundry, there's some kind of agent kind of thing. So in Cloud Foundry, it is called DEA, Droplet Execution Agent. So that one will monitor all the executor inside that VM to see, okay, now whether it is still using CPU and some others too.
Hmm.
Based on that, it will push those information through the message booker, no, not message booker, through the messaging mechanism to the health manager. It has a component for health manager that keep track of all those heartbeats. once health manager figure out, okay, there's a executor that is down, if you send the information back to the cloud controller, the cloud controller will decide, okay, whether I need to create another instance or do something. That's
Yeah, the health manager is a really, really crucial and important component.
Would you say that the metrics for that are independent, or do they get it from the same place, for example, like Cloud Stack Scheduler?
No,
I mean,
no metrics.
OpenStack Scheduler.
No
gets it
metrics
from-
there. It's just information within Cloud Foundry.
Yeah, we
It
can
is, you have
combine it in that
Two,
container.
two things. The cloud controller has a database. In that database it says, I have this application with this amount of instances that belong to this organization, all these things. And the health manager listens to every single component saying, I'm okay. And once in a while, which is really frequent, it says, okay, what is here? And what is the desirable state? Something is different, okay. Create new ones. Destroy the one that are crashed. And it always keeps the very same image. And that happens really fast. Because you already have the application stage here. The containerization, the container creation is really fast. So next time the health manager starts listening again, same situation, running unexpected.
Where does it touch the infrastructure as a service? Does it ever?
Nothing. No, at this point, it's nothing. Because we are talking about just